Scarbs were at Tempelhof Aerodrome. I've always wanted to go there, scene of the Berlin Airlift, and Formula E didn't ignore that place at all, from what I gather. They made the most of it.
No, absolutely.
The terminal I'm talking about,
the terminal building is the terminal building that was built during the late 30s and remains exactly intact. One of the fantastic things is the original check-in area. You know, sort of you go back to like the James Bond films, or the old-fashioned check-in desks are all still there, and the original luggage conveyor. And the sport made use of this. So the driver autograph sessions, which are a kind of essential part of the race day before the race. Each team had a check-in desk livered up with their names and their drivers, and the drivers did the autographs, sat at a check-in desk, absolutely perfect. Meanwhile, on the luggage conveyor, there were various parts of a Formula E car being rotated around as though it had just come lifted off of an aircraft.
But this is one of the great things about Formula E. It goes to a city, it does its race, but it actually makes use of everything that's going on in the city and maximises that in a way that I don't think we see Formula One doing, but probably will in the future. A few ideas coming from Formula E already.
Well, I think
into Formula
One.
They
really make use of what's available to them, because these are all city centre events, so there is something unique for every city that needs to be sort of brought out in the coverage.
Well, Felix Rosenqvist, a very talented driver about whom we've spoken many times, should be in Formula One in my view, lots of natural flair. Isn't in Formula One, but Formula E have now made him a winner, which says a lot about Formula E, I think, and good on him. First win for Felix, driving for Mahindra.
Yes.
In the second race, he had a penalty for an unsafe release, but he was really quick in that as well. But what the interesting thing about that whole Berlin Formula E weekend, though, was that Buemi, who is the man to beat consistently with that Renault Dams team, was actually not quick in qualifying for the first race. And why was that?
A lot of it was tyres. The Tempelhof circuit is literally on the concrete apron of the airport, and it's not designed as a racetrack surface. Lots of drivers were finding it very difficult to get the tyres. Equally, the circuit layout is very much set up as quite open corners rather than very sharp 90-degree corners. And this really helps if you can change gear to get your electric motor into its right efficiency range and its right power range. Obviously, the Renault car doesn't have any gears. You can't change gears. You're basically stuck in one ratio. And I just don't think they got the setup right on that first day. Fantastic there was a double header, because obviously Buemi had a chance to get the setup and all of these problems sorted out. Obviously, there was some battery issues as well. It was very warm there at the weekend. And bring that back. But equally, the second race, the qualifying session, the final sort of Super Pole shootout, all the drivers were much slower. When Rosenqvist did his first run, he thought he'd blown it, but everyone else, was obviously that much further back on performance as well. So it's just one of those really unusual racetracks. It just throws up variabilities that people racing on circuits just really aren't used to.
MotoGP.
Yes.
What's going on there? Catalunya. Win for Ducati.
2 wins on the bounce for Ducati, and a seesaw of fortunes between the Yamaha and the Honda team, which are obviously normally the dominant teams in there. We've gone through 2 races with very long straights, quite low grip surfaces, and the tyres have been the problem. So one race Yamaha was struggling with the front end, the next race they're struggling with the rear end. Honda equally having problems just trying to find it. We saw Marquez falling off on Saturday constantly. I think it was at four drops that he had on the bike.
It's odd though, they're all on Michelins, and typically Michelin pretty switched on in terms of what they're doing and the information that goes to the team. They get a lot of information, and yet there is this problem now. That
I don't think it's necessarily a problem. It's just how the teams cope. Obviously,
it's the sweet spots, trying to find
MotoGP bikes are sort of very fickle things, and from one day and one weather condition to another, the bikes can change quite a lot, and there's lots of sort of variability in the chassis that maybe you don't get with cars, for example. But Ducati got it right both weekends, and really did kind of blitz the opposition. I think we go on now to Assen. I don't think we're going to see that same pattern. It's more of a traditional race circuit. So, but I think it's great that Ducati have kind of come back into this category, having sort of struggled for many years.
It's a great name to have at the front of MotoGP, or near the top anyway.